You are in property.
Yes.
How was the start of the journey, and why property in general?
I guess it stems from me wanting to build wealth young. And when I did my research on like wealth creation and what wealth was, a lot of things that I kept coming across was property, property, property.
Mm.
And that was the only thing that I came to mind when I used to be in the corporate world. And I felt like, okay, how do I earn 200, 300 grand a year? And I kind of realized the corporate world wasn't going to get me there quick enough, or in the time frame I was willing to kind of invest into that. So property was the first one that came to mind, and then I literally went onto a program, got immersed in that world, and yeah, I am here today basically. But that is literally what drove me into property.
So how long have you been for?
Not long. You were amazed by this. I started to learn about property back in, I want to say 2018. I think it's 2018. I can't remember exactly, but I've only been actively buying. So I bought my first property back in Feb 2020.
Okay.
So it's just 3 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been aggressive. Wow. I've been aggressive with it, and all because one, I got educated, and so the know-how was there to be able to allow me to scale and literally repeat what I've done several times over. So there's nothing clever. It's just following processes and not giving up. Really, keep going.
And your mindset as well has, because there's so many people who probably started at the same time as you, but maybe the reason why was not as strong as you, their mindset was not really on point, or probably the discipline that you have has not been. So what was the factors that made you who you are today?
Don't ask me how I have high levels of self-belief, but I just have the self-belief of like, if I believe that it's something I can go and do, or even not even necessarily have the know-how, but if it's something I feel like I'm capable of doing, and once I believe I can go out there, I'll go out there and find out who I need to become, what I need to do to be able to achieve that thing. So having high levels of self-belief, being disciplined obviously is another thing, but I would say for me, what drives me forward a lot is just that self-belief, because I feel like you said, it's all around the mindset. People kind of want to have the know-how of how to get into property, how to do business or whatever, but it's all in the head. Like I always say, your mind is your limit, is literally the limit that you have. So if you can't fix what's in your mind, like if you can't believe you are worthy of attracting £1 million, for example, there's no way in hell you're gonna, even if someone give the know-how, because you don't have the mindset that you are worthy of £1 million, you're gonna subconsciously, like without you knowing, actually stop yourself from achieving that. So it's the mind's got to get it right first, and then the know-how kind of falls in place by getting in the right rooms, obviously.
Wow, and obviously it has not been an easy journey.
Definitely not.
I can relate, to be honest. What has been some of the hardest moments?
I think for me, it's this. It's always going to be like a level of self-doubt when you get into the process, especially even like trying to get the first deal over the line and going viewings, getting rejections. Like I've raised a lot of capital. I've raised millions of pounds, and I've had a lot of no's. So like going through that, I've just been resilient to keep hearing no, 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 but and still keep moving forward. These are huge things, and like I always say as well, like people don't reach the level of success they want, or don't get the things they want because they give up too soon. Because let's be real, like getting told 100 times no in your face, like not a lot of people are cut out for that. So if you haven't got that self-resilience or like willpower, I'm going to do whatever it takes, I'm going to keep going, I'm not going to give up, chances are you don't achieve the things that you want to get out of life. And that's just the truth. Like people that don't give up are the ones that have been able to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve.
And throughout this whole 3 years, which one do you think was the hardest deal?
I don't have that story. Everyone like, is there like a horror story or like a bad deal?
Really?
Like, yeah, no, I don't really have that story. I don't have that. I document everything. Everyone can tell me like, you based on what I've documented, like there was nothing that was like a U-turn, like nothing crazy happening in my deals. Like, my deals have been smooth. Like I guess for me, I spend a lot of time networking, i.e. finding people that have done the things I want to do, understand exactly how they've gone about achieving their level of success, i.e. I wanted to get into HMOs. I went and found HMO investors in my area that have done HMOs, find out how they've gone about buying a property. How do they take a home and turn it into a 5-bedroom unit or a 6-bedroom HMO or 7, whatever it was. Understanding the floor plans. How did it go about changing this floor plan to this? So I was studying like the how. And so when it came to my turn, and like it's my turn to shine, I'm like, I've got the team. Again, I was big on, from my corporate world, we used to have employ the best. So the same principles from my employment, I'm like, I want to hire the best people around me to help me build my vision.
Yeah.
Similarly, like we did in Jaguar Land Rover building an engine, we hired the best people that can bring on board the expertise to be able to go out and deliver an engine they've never built before. They had to hire the best.
Yeah.
So same principle, I did that, and for me, I found a team that were capable of doing this 10 times over. So I don't have these horror stories of like, yeah, the deal I spent too much money or bad investment. Like it's been relatively good for me.
Maybe a deal that took way too long, or
I mean, if 4 weeks, a month late, I don't know if that's a bad deal,
it's
but like,
normal, yeah.
yeah, and that was my first deal. So my first deal was during COVID, and that was still a great deal in the perspective of what was happening, because I had people that were saying we took 9 months. I took 5 months to finish my project. It was like a 6-bedroom HMO, loft conversion, gut out, start again, rear extension, 3-meter rear extension as well. And that was done in 5 months. Some people even argue that's an average duration of time for a project normally. But for me, my average duration is like 3 to 4 months on a project. So to still hit 5 months in a time where there was supply issues, things were being delayed, couldn't get in the houses, being told not to go on site anymore. To hit 5 months, I think it's still impressive. So for me, I haven't really, like I said, I don't have these horror stories. I'd love to tell you that something went bad and I had to turn around and do this. And we've had challenges in terms of having to get creative. Maybe COVID, perfect example, i.e. lack of materials being available, having to find ways around it. So, but that's credit to my team and them being able to overcome problems. Because I'm always like big on like, guys, you got to hire solution-oriented people. Like if my team isn't solution-oriented, haven't got initiative, you can't be my team. Because if I'm now the person that has to tell you what to do, i.e. come up with ideas, then it's like, why am I hiring you? I'm asked to do the job myself. Yeah. I'm the one with the ideas. I'm gonna have to execute myself. Like I don't need to be telling you. I don't want doers. I'm a big person. I hate doers. Doers on some tasks, yes, they just need to do it. But most roles, I want people with initiative, who are creative, who've got their own ideas, aren't just gonna just take my instruction for it. Like if I'm telling you to do something and you know it's wrong, you're not. I want you to challenge me. Like, Alfred, no, I think there's a better way. This is why. And if you tell me the data, I was supposed to just doing, then I can appreciate even more. Like, yeah, you're not just taking what I'm telling you to do. You're actually saying, no, actually, this is more logical. This is better. We can get better results doing it this way. And I love people like that.
To be fair, I can definitely understand. I used to have, even my admin guys, we have 15 people in our team right now. Yeah. In 2 offices, right? And there are some who just come, have their to-do list. When the to-do list is finished, they're like, okay, that's it. Whereas some get out of the way, look for different type of challenges. What can we improve? Let's look at what there is and what there isn't. And I have my social media team now. They're not even based in the UK. Yeah. And they're doing amazingly a good job. And I can't see myself not having them, because they get out of their way. Like, oh yeah, you know what, Hatter, we should do this and we should do that. And these are a few ideas maybe we should try. And I'm like, wow, I don't have to think of everything myself, because they're very creative themselves. Yeah. They're just doing it them. So I completely understand. If you go on a site and someone just has a vision, like they can just share with you, and you just take the decision. Yes. And you have the time just to say yes or no. I think that's a very good level. And it also shows that you're a good leader. I'm kind of, the whole 9 to 5, people take a dig on 9 to 5. Obviously, it depends where you're working and stuff. But if you're in a decent corporate company, which in my case I was, there's actually a lot to learn from being in a corporate environment. Like, people need to take advantage of actually being in corporate environments. Because, for example, these companies want to invest into their employees to upskill them to become better asset to the company. So if you can go on some training courses, leadership program, whatever, I don't know, I'm just thinking of stuff out of the box now, but like just anything that's going to allow you to be able to increase your earning potential, i.e. the skills you've acquired, do it. Like, they're going to pay for it. Some companies are funding whole degrees to go out there and whatever, get an MBA, for example, because they know when you come back, you're going to be in the company, you're going to help the company do more. So like, utilize 9 to 5. Like, for me, I'm grateful for my 9 to 5 job. It taught me a lot. Like, it taught me how to be a great leader, work with different teams, different cultures, learn how to get the best out of people. Like, I know my guys, my engineers who are like, you can tell them and they'll just run with it. And then there's some you got to apply more pressure, i.e. check up on them, see what's going on. Because if you don't, they just sit back and do it in their own time. So I learned to kind of work with different types of people and kind of learn how each person works and work with them to get the result that I want. So yeah, being there has been amazing.
Nice. So I hear you talking a lot about delayed gratification.
Yes.
What do you mean?
So delayed gratification is an important concept. So we are taught instant gratification, yeah? So what happens is that, what happens for a lot, especially as a kid,
Yep.
I'm Nigerian, yeah? So as a Nigerian, you go to the Nigerian party.
Yep.
When you go to the party, they'll play music. You will dance. You will dance and you will sweat and you will dance. And then your aunties and uncles will come and give you £1, £5 and give you money.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, like I said, I'm Nigerian. So my mum will say, let me hold that money for you. That is the last time you are ever going to see that money. Ever in your life. That money don't exist. And if you're even brave enough to ask your mum where that money is, if she doesn't slap you, she will tell you, did the light switch on? Did the tap, when you open the tap, did water come out of it?
That's where your money is.
That's where your money is. Do you know what I mean? So let's pretend that, you know, your parents are not Nigerian like mine. Now you get, and they actually give you that money. You get that money, and what do they teach you? You get that money, and you can go and buy something. So I've got money, and I can go and buy it. And so that is instant gratification. I've got money, and now I'm in a position where I can gratify myself by going to make myself feel better by spending that money.
Yeah.
And that's instant gratification. So that's what we learn. If you get money, money allows you to buy things. When you go to the shop with your kids, they used to put all the sweets by the checkout, then your kids throwing a tantrum because they want to buy that sweet. And then if you give it to them, now they know as long as I cry, I'll get the sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah? So instant. These are things psychologically from childhood. We've accepted that if I want something and I've got the money, I can get it. So that's instant gratification. What we're talking about is delaying your gratification. The way you really win, you see, because if you have to pay for it, you always have to work for it. So if I have to make £1,000 and I need £1,000 to buy this good, I'm always going to have to go and work to make the £1,000 to buy it.
Yeah.
But the reality is what I want to do is make the £1,000, use that money to invest, and then my investments, the growth or the interest or the money I receive from my investments can pay for the lifestyle. Now, eventually, I can stop working and I've got enough in my investments that my investments can pay for my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I tell people I went to Malta, and in Malta, there was a car park for yachts.
Car park for
Car park for
yachts.
yachts.
Oof.
So just yachts, just lined up in the middle of the sea. They're just lined up. And these guys are on laptops. They're working from their yacht in the sea in Malta. And I said to myself, my goodness, there's levels, you know? There's levels. I've got people like, you know, Richard Branson, he owns his own island.
He does indeed, yeah.
And I come from a place where people are fighting for postcode. People are killing themselves for postcode. They don't even pay council tax. And they're fighting and killing themselves for postcode. And so it's so important for me for people to understand that there's so much more your limitation. And so when you start to delay your gratification and look at the bigger plan, now you start to give you the biggest freedom. The biggest thing that I can is freedom. Money doesn't make me happy, but having money allows me to live my true happiness.
Yeah.
Which means I can be around my kids. I don't have to, can I get this day off? Oh, unfortunately, Sally and Becky are off that day, so you can't have that day off. Do you know what I mean? I'm my own boss. I can go and see them. If I need to, for example, during the lockdown, my wife does cakes. And so her cake business was struggling because there was no parties, there was no events.
Yep.
So guess what? I've got my own business. Come and work for me. So my wife just came and worked in my business. And I was able to pay her and we was able to sustain our lifestyle. And so the point being is that we have that flexibility.
Yep.
You know? And so that's the freedom that we're fighting for. And delaying your gratification is so powerful because everything, Facebook, Instagram, social media, television is telling you, buy now, live that lifestyle now, go on this holiday, do this right now. And when you can say, I'm okay actually.
I'll wait.
Even if I can afford it, I'm okay. It is so powerful. It's the biggest power you get because now you control your steps. Yeah? So I see people, they go into supermarket, no shopping list. What happens? You start to smell that croissant, you know? They know what they're doing. They're pumping the bread because they know psychologically when you smell that, it makes you hungry. And when you're hungry, you now spend more. Psychological.
Yeah.
There's a reason that bread, milk, sugar, the things that we buy most are at the back of the store. It's not accident.
That's true.
It's at the back of the store. And now you're going to clock your feet. Oh my goodness, that's right. It's at the back of the
That
store.
is so true.
Why? Water. At the back of the store. Why? Because they want you to walk past all the labels, all the signs. The discount stuff is in yellow that pops out, or in colours to pop out. It attracts the eye. And now, all of a sudden, you've left 50% of the things in your basket you never planned to buy. And you don't even need. You buy in food because you're hungry. You get home and you don't even want this. You're like, why did I buy this? I don't even like this. And so it's really important for, number one, don't go shopping hungry. Number two, have a list, have a plan. And even me, I don't even go to the shop. I do it online. No smell. All I smell in my house is jollof. You know what I mean? And they're not fooling me. Do you know what I mean? So I'm making sure that we can have a list. Because guess what? Because we do it online, we can go and check the cupboards. Have we actually ran out of that? Do we actually need that?
Yeah.
No, this is what we need. Do you know what I mean? And it's much easier. And yes, there's a cost, but what's your time? So I look at things in time. If I know that it's going to cost me petrol to get to the supermarket, it's going to be about an hour in there, and then there's a queue, there's a drive there, drive back. If it costs me £5,
and if you don't get a ticket, you
get a ticket,
amazing.
anything like that, because someone could scratch your car in and out. If I know that it's going to cost me £5 for them to bring me the same thing I could go and walk around and I now save myself 3 hours. I think if I give myself an extra 3 hours, either I deserve those 3 hours to rest, or I can use those 3 hours to make more than £5.
Bars, you're dropping something very, we don't think about it sometimes, and it's very important. Even these little things. Someone said to me, if you're washing your car yourself, you're wasting time and money. If you're doing all the things you don't like to do, I'm safe. We think we're saving time by doing but the amount of time we're spending to do, like now you said earlier, you take your shirts now to the dry cleaners to do it for you, right?
Of course.
Because how long it used to take you? 4 or 5 hours to iron everything. You just take it. They take care of it. Those 4 hours, you're using them to do something else.
And I make much more. And guess what? They iron it better than me. The dry cleaners iron it better than me. They clean it better than me. And you know what? Also, it reduces the pressure because I've got a wonderful wife that does the laundry. But actually, she's already looking after doing all my kids. If I can reduce the pressure on her by dry cleaning my stuff, guess what? Number one, she has less work to do. If my wife has less work to do, she has more time for me. If she has more time for me, guess what?
You're happy.
I'm happy and I get more sex. And that is worth a lot of money. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And so for me, these are investments in myself. People think I'm just investing in myself because guess what? When I feel good, I can go out and make other people feel good. And that's what I do. My job is making people who are scared, people who are insecure, people who are in fear, taking them from that place and giving them a plan, giving them hope, giving them enough encouragement and motivation to achieve their goals. How can I do that for others if me, myself, I feel unfulfilled, I feel like I'm not happy?
Yeah, you can't give what you don't have.
Exactly.
No.
So if I know it costs X, I just make sure I go and make it. And now I live a wonderful life.
That's do you share all this in your book? Because, I've pre-ordered it, and we want people to learn more about you. We're limited with time. We can have you here. I'm afraid. Tell us a little bit about the book that's coming up soon.
Yeah, so the book that's coming out real soon is it's called Get Your Money Right. And that's the thing for me. It's about getting your money right. Like actually, we all make money, but a lot of us are not getting it right.
Yeah.
We are getting it wrong when it comes to money. And so not only is it a book that you can read from the beginning to end, it's also a guide. So depending on where you are on your financial journey, it goes all the way from how the banking system works. I think a lot of people don't understand how the banks work. When you understand how the banks work, you understand why you're not going to leave a lot of money in your bank account. Do you know? And so I teach you that first chapter. I teach you how does the banks work? How do the banking system works? How do the banks make money? And what can you do? And then we go on. So we go on all the way up to philanthropy. So if you're a millionaire and you've got loads of money, you can give it away. And why do people give it away? And why that's the biggest flex. I don't know if you saw, who was it? Jeff Bezos. This week said, I'm giving my money away. I'm giving my money away. That's philanthropy. That is the biggest flex that you can do. And in this book, the last chapter is talking about, inheritance and leaving it and philanthropy. So the plan is that wherever you are, we talk about getting a promotion at work and how to do that. We talk about anything money, financial. I give you all the tips, but it's funny. Like it's me. I'm talking. The way we're talking now is how I'm talking in this book. It's me giving it to you in the rawest, easiest to understand. I give you every chapter. I give you a story.
Yeah.
Whether a story about my life, story about my client, story about. I give you a story so you can understand how what we've talked about in the chapter works in real life. It is a book that you're not just going to read once. It's a book that when you get to go and buy your house, you're going to go back. Oh, here's the property chapter. Let me go and, oh, when you're going to, I want to invest in stocks. Oh, here's the stocks chapter. Oh, I'm thinking about getting a loan. Oh, here's loans and credit cards and debt. And, I need to improve my credit. Everything you need about money to get your money right is in this book.
Wow. Let's start from when you were in Nigeria, before you came to the UK. How was the shift from being a Nigerian man in Nigeria to coming here to the UK and having a very successful life? Because not a lot of people succeed and not a lot of people make it.
100%.
And if I remember correctly, you were at some point with no documents, found yourself a little bit lost. So let's start from when the moment you actually decided to change your life.
First of all, as I mentioned earlier, all the way from Nigeria, I used to sell anything apart from drugs. I became quite known in campus for selling.
Mm.
And I will sell anything sellable. The guys likes me, the girls loves me, especially the girls really do love me.
No doubt.
And you know, I started finding myself in a situation whereby I would sell things to people. And from selling things to those people, they pay me some of the money. Sometimes they don't pay me the rest of them. And this was quite challenging. And in Nigeria, there is still jungle justice is still very high. Jungle justice is when you almost take the law into your own hands. And I think jungle justice still exists in the whole of Africa. And jungle justice just means you just take the law into your own hands. You demand for someone that owes you money. Even the Bible says eye for an eye, for example. So it means that if the person don't pay you, you know, you can fight them or they can fight you, whatever that looks like. So for me, I will sell things to people and people wouldn't pay me. I would be oppressed. You know, at some point as well, being in university, I'll probably go out with my girlfriend and I'll be oppressed. At some point, I was slapped in my face heavily, and my car keys was collected, and I had to go and give something, part of what I sell to get my car back. And that really started to really, was painful. And because these were rivalry groups in campus. So at some point I made that decision and said, you know what, this can't keep happening. How do I, and the people who was oppressing me said, you have to become a member of that particular group. So I actually, talked a little bit about this in my new book, The Test. So I bowed to that pressure and I became a member of a gang, a particular gang in campus. And that enabled me to overcome the fact that nobody could just come up to me and slap me and take my car keys or try to oppress me. At some point, it was good because I felt, okay, I was untouchable. But then once you're in now,
you can't go out.
You can't go out in that way. Not just you can't go out in that way as well. It became a bit more violent. The year I actually became a member of these particular groups. At the end, a lot of people died that year in campus. So I had no choice than to say, no, I'm a sales guy. I love good life. And that's exactly what prompted me to looking for visa, regardless of however it took, to find myself in the UK. No brother, no sister, no auntie, no uncle. I knew 3 people, one in Leeds, one in Luton, and one in London. And got myself a visa, came to London, got here however I did. Got here, slept on the floor, did a lot of different types of odd jobs. But within a year to 2 years from the odd jobs, I saved a lot of money and started shipping things back to Nigeria. All right. It was hard. All right. It was hard. If I was to go deep into the story, we'll be here for the next, who knows? And it was really hard, very hard. And being in here, not able to legitimately work, because if you're on a visa, you can't work. No recourse to public funds.
Yes.
If you're on a visa, you can't do so many things. All right. You can't do business. You can't do any of these things.
Yeah.
So However, met a few people here and there, and I would get odd jobs to be here. I would get odd jobs like cleaning toilets, spraying perfumes in the toilets, loading cars, people's vans in the car in the streets of Peckham, and that was my life. It was tough. The cold weather wasn't even friendly, enough. It was terrible. Like literally, you're talking to someone who came all the way from Nigeria, and there's consistent heat, 34, 40 degrees to -1, temperature.
True.
It was really, really hard. That was tough. And that led me to loneliness. And I became lonely. I wasn't sure, maybe just go back to Nigeria, you know, and I went through all this different massive roller coaster. Cut long story short, within 2 years of going through that, I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife, 17 years later. Meeting my wife gave me the reason why I should stay in this country, because I was already in the mindset of my entrepreneurship life is going to be killed by this. Obviously, the government in Nigeria as well, there's no guarantee when you graduate from school if you're going to get a job and stuff like that. In fact, you can read medicine and you can end up working in bank. You can read banking and end up working as a builder. That's how much 20 years ago looked like in Nigeria. And I'm not from the upper class at all. Neither was I from the middle class of Nigeria. So I'm from the lower class Nigerian, or low to mid, probably low to mid. Yeah, my brothers, my family members, they had money, but it's not like we were super wealthy.
Right.
So we were just okay. My brother owns hotels, petrol station, and all of this. And so we were okay. So that's just what, growing up looked like. And then coming into this country and doing all the different businesses. And at some point in my life, I just knew I was always an entrepreneur. I love selling things. I love giving services. I love giving value. I kind of understood it, but I didn't totally understand as at then that I was an entrepreneur. Maybe you might want to say a hustler, because I hustled to sell anything. I hustled to just make a living. And it was a choice that I made at the very young age of my life. Cut long story short, as of 2006, when I met my wife, got married. Again, that came with its own challenges, because a lot of people felt like, oh, maybe I was getting married to my wife because I had an agenda. Maybe that's how I needed to stay in this country. So both my family, her family, friends, everybody talking. But anyway, cut long story short, that allowed me to stay in the country. My first child came, Abraham. He's 15 years old now. Then a couple of years later, my daughter came, Angel. And that's just exactly how my life looked like. 2012, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to do different types of businesses, but it doesn't look like I have a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relocated back to Nigeria, started oil and gas. I started doing logistics, so which means I would move petroleum products from one depot to the other. And eventually that went well. That was the very first time I started to really have the fulfillment of, okay, wow, it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years of grind. No, actually, not 5, 7 years. Up to 2012, that probably be around about 8, 10 years. And life is getting settled. I'm going back to Nigeria, back and forth. And all of a sudden, my business is all right. 2015, I lose everything completely.
Why?
I lost over 150,000 pounds in a truck fire blaze. So 2 of my trucks moving petroleum products from the northern part of Nigeria to from the western part of Nigeria to the northern part of Nigeria, 65,000 liters of petroleum products. They ran into each other, fell into the valley, burst into flames. Trucks completely burnt to ashes. The lockout, nobody died, because if someone died, that would have been something else. I'll still be feeding and looking after the children of those drivers, but nobody died. And that was very challenging moment. And that's when I actually decided to quit entrepreneurship.
How did that make you feel?
I actually quit. When that happened to me, when I lost over 150,000 pounds, I quit entrepreneurship. And I became what that made me feel was like, it's like I've just been chasing since 2000, and I've just been chasing and chasing through school, being an entrepreneur, chasing through my entire life. Nothing is working. I saw myself as a failure. I saw myself as a disappointment. I saw myself, maybe there was something beyond me that was working against me. That's just what I saw.
Did you enjoy doing that?
When I was an Uber driver,
No, in petrol, like
I loved it. Like I said, that was the first time I felt fulfillment. That was the first time I felt successful. But losing all of that, I became depressed. I went through a major depression. Whilst I was going through that depression, going through a panic attacks, you name it, my life was just, it almost ruined my marriage. Between that period, I tried to get it all together. My wife is even looking at me like, when is all these battles going to end? I've got 2 young kids I need to look after. My father, I didn't have the opportunity to have been looked after by my father. So my responsibility to my children is whatever I did not get from my father, I need to get it. I need to make sure I'm that person in the life of my children. So I felt completely disappointed. I felt lost. I felt like I'm chasing shadows. I just felt like, to be honest, I think I was quite fortunate not to be suicidal. But because that's the only thing I've never, in my entire, every single challenge I've ever felt in my life, I think the only thing that God has always, done for me is never to have thought, okay, let me take my own life. But the kind of pains and trials and tribulations I've been through in my entire life, I think financially, emotionally, physically, and mentally, a lot of people probably would have lost it mentally.
I'm just looking at, as an outsider, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, oh my God, this man has survived quite a lot. Also, having a family that's relying on you. I mean, I personally wouldn't know what I would have done.
I share something in my book, and I think I'm not going to give it away. Top point in my life, I had legal battles that I couldn't even come back. I went out of this country and I couldn't come back for a year. And I share that in my book. I'm not going to give that away. But those who want to know about the story, and this is why I wrote the test, because not everybody's gonna pass through a test. But to some of us, majority of us, we pass through tests, and some of us end it and say, no, this is too much.
Yeah, I've seen so many people do that, I mean, look, even us, we're sometimes, I would say, guilty of it. Guilty because our reason why is not strong enough to continue. Listen, I've had situations I'm like, you know what, fuck that. It's too much for me. I'm a female. Why don't I just get a man who's stable, look after me,
Yep.
And I don't want the hustle and I don't want to deal with it all. But I'm like, am I worth this? No, I'm just way better than just rely on someone else. What was the reason for you at that time to actually bounce back and come back even stronger?
I think one of my biggest reasons why to always bounce back, I started family at a very young age. I got married at the age of 26. Got married at the age of 26. By 28, I had my first child, Abraham. So got married. My first son was given birth to in 2008. My son, my children are my biggest reason why I can't fail. They're my strength. Like they are my strength. My son, my daughter, I look at them, and even when the whole world is crashing on me sometimes, when I look at them, I have this renewed strength, renewed hope. And that goes back to tying it back to how my birth looked like. My father married, 7 wives. I'm the 26th born of my late father.
So you have 26 brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Amazing.
My father married 7 wives. And 26th born of my late father. I don't know some of my step brothers. I don't know them. I grew up in a very interesting African home. And I've always promised myself not to be that version of my dad. My son right now, he's 15. We relate a lot. Yeah, it's, kids, they can be a bit annoying sometimes, oh, and I was like, Abraham, don't do that. Again, raising kids in this country is not easy on his own. So my biggest reason why is, without word of a doubt, is my children. And then my biggest reason why is my wife. I came to a country where nobody knew me. I came to a country where their process, their procedures, their system, there's institution. And you can't go around that institution. You have to have legal resident permits and all of that to survive this country. So when I came here, I couldn't do a lot of things that normal people will do because you don't have papers. And my wife has stood by me fighting all those different battles.
Wow.
You know, for those who are British nationals would not understand what it is to have citizenship. You know, the
Yeah.
red book you hold in front of you, you don't know what it is.
I can relate to you.
And for me, not having that,
Yeah.
like my son will never understand what it means to apply for to
visa.
apply for a visa. Because
And
it's-
wait,
and
whether
pay-
to be
wake up and say, I'm going to
rejected.
the USA.
Wow.
You know, oh, I'm going to Canada tomorrow.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
understand all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like when you've come from a lot of hassle, a lot of bitterness, a lot of fight, a lot of different situation to be where I am today. Sometimes I just like, God, thank you.
Well, look, I've met both of your kids. I met your lovely wife, and you have a beautiful family.
Thank you.
And I can only say that they are very privileged to be having a dad like you, a husband who is supportive, who's also caring about them. Because someone else would just be like, you know what? I'll just get a job and they will live off whatever there is, right, on the table.
You mentioned your mental health, and you suffered with quite depression and for some time, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was it? What triggered it? How was
So-
it?
When I was 24, I'd been driven my whole life to getting the...
Are you not 21?
Don't tell anyone, actually. No, so when I was 24, I'd been working since I was 18, and I forced myself through exams and various different things, and I achieved quite a lot at a young age. So I was 24, I was a chartered accountant, and I was a director of a global company.
Wow.
And I had it all. I had the dream partner, the dream house, the dream career. Like, I was on course to have the dream life. And I'm sure many of you listening or watching, you probably know, you've heard this story before. Everyone has had something that's been a breaking point for them to come out and get through it. And for me, I found myself clinically depressed. So without going through the whole backstory, my partner of 4 years was unfaithful to me with a really good friend of mine, and had been for months. So very suddenly, my world came crashing down because I lost my partner. Therefore, I lost my house because I didn't want to live in the same house as him anymore. My mindset dropped, my value dropped, my confidence dropped, my worth dropped. And therefore, when I found out that I was clinically depressed, I lost my job as well.
Wow.
And so I was unwell for about 6 months. Couldn't get out of bed. Couldn't see anyone. I think, if I remember rightly, the biggest win I had for a good couple of months was being able to get from the bed to the couch.
You must be kidding.
And it was horrific.
Wow.
From someone who's so driven and so wanting more, wanting to succeed, I then found myself succeeding to get from my bed to the couch. And it was like this moment of just what I'd realized was I'd been completely in denial. And I'd been so unwell for so long, pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, that when I actually accepted that I was depressed and my doctor told me, it was like a ton of bricks just fell on me. And I'd got to the point where I didn't really know who I was anymore, because I'd painted this picture of success, this dream life that I'd achieved, and it felt great. But then I was lying in bed, not really wanting to be here anymore, having quite literally lost everything except my bedroom. And the worst part was that I was completely oblivious to this illness I'd had for years. And so the worst bit was that I couldn't even trust my own mind anymore. And I just remember being there thinking, where has this all come from? You know, you hear the phrase, ignorance is bliss. Like, I was so unaware, so ignorant to this, what was going on in my mind and my life. And I just kept fighting through it, pushing through it, the next milestone, the next success, the next everything, until the universe, whatever you say, brought me this huge breakup where I had to face it. I couldn't fight through that anymore. And don't get me wrong, I tried. I definitely tried to keep pushing. But when I then realized how unwell I was, I forced myself to keep going. And so I had to force myself to face up to the truth. So yeah, it was not a pleasant time in my life, but it was something I think I had to experience, because unless my world had come crumbling down, I wouldn't have been able to rebuild it.
Well, I can't believe you went through all that. And your biggest achievement now was just going from the bed to the couch. So at this point, what was a complete turning point to becoming, you know what, I'm worth more than this. I want more than this. I can do better than this. How was it?
Yeah. For me, I always think that there's a light bulb moment, or like a breakthrough moment, an oh, F it moment is how I describe it. And for me, I was coming out of my depression. I was sort of like 4 or 5 months through my 6 months of being signed off. And my doctor was saying about how I was starting to feel better. And my doctor said, Chloe, I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to work. When will you let me go back to work? And little did I know, she thought I wouldn't be able to go back. So she'd actually said to me that she thought I needed to take it easier, maybe have a easier job, a less stressful job. And she even suggested possibly taking more time out and being supported by benefits. Now, I'm not saying that was the wrong thing for many people. I know a lot of people live like that. But for me, being so driven for such a long period, even taking 6 months out, I felt sick with myself. I was so angry at myself. I had so much rage towards myself that I'd even got myself into this situation. So when she suggested me not actually going back and me just, living on benefits, I just thought, I'm 25 years old. Like, I've got so much more in my life. And I think for me, that was a little spark that just made this fight come back. And I didn't need a lot of fight. It was a teeny tiny spark that just lit up my needs to do stuff, to be driven, to be inspired again. Now, I don't know if she did that intentionally. She may say that now, who knows?
Right.
But that was the moment where I was like, I'm not sitting here for long. And I had a decision to make. Either I follow her instructions and have an easier job, an easier life, and no job, or I actually use what I've learned and the experience I've had and the pain I've had to do something different. Because what I'd experienced going through my depression was I had to do a lot of deep work. I went through a lot of therapy, a lot of counseling, a lot of psychology appointments. And I learned so much about myself that it was so insightful that I thought, what if I could help other people, or use this for good? Use this pain for good. And that, to me, was the breakthrough moment, that oh, F it moment, where I was like, no, there's more to me than this. And that fight just came back. And it didn't come back quick, but it was like the spark lit and it started to flow. And that, to me, was when it was the breaking point. And within about 6 months, I'd started my business. And everyone thought I was mad. Like, my family, my friends were like, Chloe, you've just gone through a very, very, very serious clinical depression. Do you really think now is the right time to start a business? And I just thought, yeah.
And what was the first business you started?
So I started a coaching and consulting business.
Yeah.
And I was just open to helping anyone. I'd already been training a little bit. I trained a lot and spoke a lot in my actual career. So to me, it was just doing more of this, but for myself. So I just did what everyone does, designed a logo, designed a website, started telling people on social media, hey, I'm a coach.
So many people are in this stage, So many people are literally where you were.
Yeah. And that's what I did. And I remember reaching out to a few friends, and one of my friends knew a journalist from the local paper.
Wow.
And so they interviewed me because depression was a big topic. It still is now, or should be, in my opinion, mental illness, and they interviewed me about it.
Wow.
And then they knew someone at the BBC in the local BBC radio and said, well, they'd love to hear your story too. And so it just kind of flowed from there. And my 2 very first clients were actually employees at my old company.
Wow.
So they must have seen it on social media, heard it on the radio, and they both came to me separately. They didn't know each other, and said, Chloe, you used to mentor me in my job and used to help me get promotions and give me career pathways. Like, I still need that. Would you be up for doing it? And we'll do it privately. And I just thought, yeah. So as soon as I got my first few clients and people started hearing about me, talking about what I was doing, I started putting on events, I started teaching more about it, and then I started scaling it. And that was kind of the beginning of me becoming a business owner.
And then the journey continues to now being one of the leading female entrepreneurs out there. And, that, well done. I mean,
thank you. Yeah,
you're someone so many people look up to.
Thank you. It's definitely not been an easy ride. And for anyone who thinks I just started a business and got featured in the media and woohoo, this overnight success, it definitely wasn't that. I think a lot of people paint a picture of this whole like 7 figures in 7 days or an overnight success. And I don't believe anything is like that. I feel like you have to build the foundations.
Yep.
Yes, the success might happen overnight, but the foundation can be laid for months or even years. So for me, it was that journey, and it was just taking the next step, being guided, as I said, with mentors, and just keep moving, keep going, and remembering why you're doing it. And that's how it's managed to get here today. And I'm so grateful that I can inspire other people to do the same now with my businesses.
Well, you know, so many of us, I mean, including myself, we wait until that moment where something has happened in our life so that we can take action. There's so many people who are comfortable right now. They're in comfort zone, like, oh yeah, I'll do it. To be honest with you, I was like that. I mean, I was happy, maybe, I don't know. But I didn't really have the drive to why I was supposed to do it. Why do you think people wait until something really bad is happening in their life and having that pain moment before they start taking action and changing the course of their life?
Because if they're not in pain and they don't need something to change, why bother? Like, change is not easy. Change is the hardest thing ever to go through. Think about, like, what do they say is the most stressful thing in life? Like getting married, buying a house. It's all change. People can't deal with change. And so unless you're in pain, why bother? And I think that's where a lot of people, I mean, people talk about, you know, we're speakers, we're podcasters. People say, well, every entrepreneur has a sob story. Well, yeah, because they didn't have the pain. Why would they change it? And so if you are listening, watching, whatever, and you're not in pain and you're thinking, well, should I change? Should I do something? Only if you feel the need. If there's a gap, if there's a hole, if there's something that you feel you need to fulfill, then go for it. But for me, I always say to people, even if they're really successful, I work with a lot of multi-million-pound business owners who then want to write a book and put themselves through the challenge of that. And they say to me, oh, you know, I really want to write a book. And I always ask them, well, why bother? You know, you're so successful. Why do you want a book? And they're like, because this is what inspires me. They want to inspire people. And so I always say to people, are you inspired? Do you wake up feeling inspired? Because to me, that's how I measure it. If you are inspired, then keep doing that. If you're not, then maybe something needs to change.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for the nuggets. It's helping me too. I'm saying I'm learning quite a lot from this session, from this podcast. How did Nick Staub get into sales?
Yeah, good question. I kind of fell into sales by accident.
Right.
And it probably started over 12 years ago now when I was in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So do you mind if I quickly take you back?
Absolutely. That's what we're here, right? We
Yeah.
need to see what your journey of success is. And you're a successful person, and I aspire to be someone like you, and I love what you're doing. And I have seen your success grow, because we're friends now. I know who you are. But then, you know, seeing you start from very humble beginnings, how did that start? What was the drive? What's
this
the
is
ambition?
interesting. So I don't share this story a lot. So I want to really take you back now to the roots of where I started. And like I said, it was an accident. I had finished university, didn't really want to go out and get a job. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I did a degree in IT computing. I got a first, so very high level degree, but I couldn't really get a job in what I wanted to do because every job that I applied for said, we want someone with experience. So to get my head straight and just get away for a bit, I decided to take a gap year to Australia.
Okay.
So I got a visa, flew over to Australia, Sydney, and very quickly my savings started to depreciate. And I needed to get myself a job fast. And what I discovered was in Australia as a backpacker, you only probably get two choices. Number one, you get yourself a job as a waitress or waiter, a bartender. Number two, it's probably a job doing sales.
Right. Ooh.
Unless you've got a trade out there, right? And I didn't have a trade. I was just a university student. So I applied for a job. And it was really funny. On the job application, they worded it to be a job like, do you like fitness? Do you like personal training? Do you like the gym? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's me 100%. Went in for my interview and crushed the interview. And I turned up for my first day at work in an office to find out that I'm going to be selling electricity door to door. So they missold me, right?
Yeah.
This is where I kind of actually start my journey on wanting to sell the right way. But I didn't know it then. I was just a young backpacker, 22 years old.
So you felt like you have been kind of tricked into getting that role position because they know people are not going to apply if they told them it's going to be a door-to-door position, isn't it?
Exactly that. And it was very churn and burn out there because there's lots of backpackers, lots of tourists. People weren't working for a long time there. They were kind of coming and going. So they just wanted to get people in. And to do that, they would lie about the sales job.
Right.
So little did I know back then, but that is a part of the reason why I do what I do now. But anyway, going back to that time, I had no other choice. I needed the money, right? So I was taught by a guy called James out there. Really good mentor. I always look back at, I didn't know he was a mentor back then. We didn't know what a mentor was. But he was someone that kind of took me under his wing and showed me how to sell, like the ways that he'd learned to sell. And a lot of it was quite textbook. You know, when we think of sales and when we get that bad feeling of sales in our belly, it's typically we think about pushing people, you know, getting them to buy our products, ramming it down their throat until they say yes. And that was the way that I was taught, right? And, you know, I did it. I made some good money. I climbed and I grew to be a team leader in the business.
Yep.
And what I really started to inject for what was different to the rest of the people working in that business was my facts for helping people. Because I've always, from a young kid, I used to get bullied in school, and I've always had just a real nerve to be the nice guy, want to help everyone. I'm a real people pleaser.
Right.
Which can have negative traits, but back then I wanted to go a little bit deeper than just trying to push people to say yes to me. I actually wanted to take time to find out what problems were they facing.
Yeah.
And I was getting people to change their bills. They're an energy provider. So I would look and ask them to grab their bill and tell me, like, how's your service so far? Okay, and how's that making you feel? What's that like? Give me more clarity. And what I discovered very quickly was that I was almost creating a system that I now have, the 7-step serving system. And I sell this system to thousands of people across the UK. But I started to create my own hybrid sales system. And it was based off the fact that you need to talk to people, right? You need to ask them questions, find out how they are feeling. Rather than just trying to sell, push, you need to pull and extract information.
Right.
That's the difference. That was the game changer for me.
So I understand that, and I'm, very pleased that you actually shared some of the golden nuggets there, and also a bit of your own experience. So you said you were bullied when you were a kid. How did that impact the fact that you're? Because look, sometimes people, when they are treated a certain way, they don't end up being successful. They don't end up changing their life 180 degrees. What made you, from then on, be who you are today, and why?
Good question. So going back to being bullied in school, yeah, it was horrible. You know, I was made fun of. I was made to feel like I was the ugliest kid in the class. And yeah.
How?
I know.
You're one of the handsome men. Well, we all agree.
Thank you. Lots changed. But yeah, it's funny because going back as well, I would, from that bullying, it really knocked my self-confidence. And I was the last person in a social situation. I kind of stand in the corner, not want people to talk to me. I was very socially awkward and shy. But if you look at me now, what I'm doing, speaking on stages, webinars, I've done a complete 180, like you say. And it's down to finding confidence.
Yeah.
Because what I realise is in sales and business alone, I think that confidence is the most attractive trait in a person.
True.
Not looks, and not anything, but confidence. And I believe that anyone can have concrete confidence, right? Anyone, yourself, any of the viewers listening. And I've got a confidence formula. It was taught to me by one of my mentors, Jessen.
Okay.
I want to share that because it's really powerful.
I was going to say, can we share that?
I'm not
with
just
our
going to
audience?
tease it, but I want to share it as well, right? So confidence is 3 things, right? Knowledge, experience, and certainty. So if you want to sell something, and remember, you could be selling an idea here. Do you have knowledge in what you are talking about? Do you have experience in what you are selling? Are you certain it can get a result for someone? If you've got all three, you've got confidence.
Right.
This system can take the most shy, the most timid person to understand that actually they are confident. Like I help so many business owners who say, Nick, I can't sell, I don't want to sell, but whatever they perceive and believe, they achieve. Right? So if you go around saying, oh, I don't like sales, you're not going to be very much like sales.
Yeah.
I'm bad at sales, you're going to be bad at sales. But if you start to flip your perspective and say, well, I know that selling is serving, I know I need to help people, so I need to be able to sell, then you're going to be able to be a much better salesperson. And when you can sell, then you can make money, you can have more time, more freedom. So this is why, Haji, I'm strong on saying that sales is the number one skill that you have to master.
I want to thank you for tuning in and liking and being so engaging. I'm loving the love and the support you're showing me every single episode. If you have any questions, make sure you follow us on all our social media and leave all your comments and your burning questions in the comment section down below. If you're listening to us through the audio platforms, Spotify, iTunes, or if you're watching us on YouTube, do not forget to give us a subscribe. Thank you for tuning in to the Diaries of Success. I was your host, Hajar Beyaz. Until the next episode, do not forget to live your best life.